Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, my name is Fatiatul Maula, and in this video, I will discuss discourse analysis, namely about author and reader text. As my part of my final exam in the Introduction Linguistic course taught by Mr. Andra Aderianto, SPD MA. Okay, the first is definition of discourse analysis. What is discourse analysis? Nah, discourse analysis in bahasa Indonesia is analisis wacana. Discourse analysis is a method of analyzing the structure of text or address longer than one sentence, taking into account both their linguistic content and their social-linguistic context. Jadi, discourse analysis ini adalah metode yang digunakan untuk menganalisis teks atau percakapan yang lebih dari satu kalimat. Next, theories and basic concept of discourse analysis. Basic concept of discourse analysis. Some of the basic concepts to examine in discourse analysis are context, discourse participant, coherent and cohesion, inference and implicator, and perception. The first, context. Context is the linguistic and situational environment in which is a speech or discourse occurs. It includes factors such as topic, time, place, discourse participant, culture, and social system. Context also encompasses the knowledge, beliefs, attitude, and ideologies held by group members who play a role in the producing and interpretation of discourse. In discourse analysis, context is studied to understanding the formal and functional properties of speech as well as its cognitive structure. The second is discourse participant. Discourse participant consists of the speaker, writer, or marker, as well as the listener, receiver, or reader involved in the communication event. They can be individuals, groups, or institutions. In speech, the speaker and the listener are discourse participant, while in writing, the writer and reader are discourse participant. Contohnya, peserta adalah guru dan siswa dalam sesi pengajaran formal atau pewawancara dan responden dalam wawancara formal. Maksudnya di sini gurunya sebagai pembicara yang memberikan informasi atau pengajaran. Nah, sementara siswa dianggap sebagai pendengar yang menerima informasi atau pengajaran tersebut. Sehingga dinamika percakapan terjadi antara pembicara atau guru dan pendengar atau siswa dalam konteks pengajaran formal. The third is cohesion and coherent. Cohesion is the relationship between linguistic elements in discourse, such as the use of appropriate lexical words, word repetition, synonyms and antonyms, and the application of gender-related convention. Cohesion also involves the use of significant grammatical factors, such as the use of pronouns, articles, conjunction, and verb tense. Contoh yang pertama yaitu penggunaan kata leksikal. Contoh kalimatnya, dia menikmati hari yang sangat santai di pantai. Contoh yang kedua, pengulangan kata. Contoh kalimatnya, ombak dengan lembut menghampiri pantai. Pantai dipenuhi dengan karang laut. Contoh yang ketiga, sinonim. Contoh kalimatnya, matahari membakar. Itu adalah hari musim panas yang sangat panas. Nah, di sini cohesion tercipta melalui pemilihan kata yang tepat, pengulangan kata, dan penggunaan sinonim untuk menjaga kesatuan dalam kalimat-kalimat tersebut. Selanjutnya, coherent. On the other hand, refers to logical and sequential arrangement of the structure components in discourse that makes the discourse meaningful. Penyusunan yang logis dan berurutan. Contohnya, pertama dia menyebarkan handuk pantainya, kemudian dia mengoleskan tabib surya sebelum berenang segar. Akhirnya, dia bersantai di bawah naungan payung pantai. Dalam contoh ini, koheren dipertahankan dengan mengorganisir tindakan dalam urutan yang logis, menciptakan wacana yang bermakna dan lengkap. For inference and implicator, discourse analysis divides into explicit and implicit meanings within text, requiring readers to make valid inference aligned within the discourse marker's intonation. Drawing on linguistic and personal knowledge is vital for accurate inference. yet the subjective nature of inference can impact the reader's conclusion. Implicator plays the significant role in conveying meaning indirectly within discourse analysis. Nah, jadi analisis wacana itu tidak hanya berfokus pada makna langsung di teks, tapi juga yang tersirat dan diinterpretasikan pembaca lewat inference. Inference ini berdasarkan konteks linguistik, situasional, dan pengetahuan bersama. Okay, the last one is presupposition. Presupposition is the process of creating meaning to the interplay of language and context. It involves implication information assumed by the speaker, requiring the listener to inform meaning. This applies not only to declarative statement, but also to interrogative comments and exclamation. Presupposition can be filled or already by conceptual information, not able to word meaning occurring at the lexical level, while pragmatic presupposition are more context dependent. Nah, jadi presupposition itu membuat makna dalam bahasa dan konteks. Isinya info yang pembicara anggap sudah diketahui, meskipun tidak diucapkan, bisa diganti oleh info tambahan dari konteks. Berlaku juga di kalimat tanya, perintah, dan seruan. Bedanya ada yang sematik atau kata dengan makna kata dan pragmatik atau kata dengan konteks. Next, theory discourse analysis. Discourse analysis theory by scholars, approaches, and elements. The first, Collat's theory, 1977. Approach, function, and context. Focus, analysis of language in a specific context. The second, Brown and Woolley, 1983. Theory, approach, difference, perception, implicator, and inference. Goal, improve understanding of written, text, spoken, and interactive discourse. And the third, Stuck theory, 1983. Approaches, elements of approach, including linguistic, predictability, and idealization. Focus, analysis of language, units larger than sentence. 4. Johnston theory, 2002. Approach, word, lines, paragraphs, episode, scenes, conversation, sentence, cohesion, structure, and regulation. Focus, various aspects of discourse analysis. 5. Abraham normalization theory, 2083. Integration of elements, perception, emotion, culture, value, language, inference, focus, in-depth analysis of various aspects of discourse. 6. Theory Fairclough, 1995. Components, textual analysis, discourse practice, and social practice. Elements, grammar, cohesion, intertextuality, and social practice. 7. Theory Van Dijk, 1977. Focus, Marco structure, superstructure, and Marco. Note global meaning, from, and local meaning of text. And the last is research approach, elements of analysis, content, themes, samples, types, utterance, context, grammar, setting, emotion, and assumption, opinions, references, question. Nah, semua teori ini memberikan kontribusi dari berbagai perspektif dalam analisis wacana, melibatkan struktur linguistik, elemen, kontekstual, dan praktik sosial. Next, the function of language. The first, definition. Language is a crucial communication system for interaction involving spoken or written elements. Its functions include communication, expressing identity, play, imaginative expression, and emotional release. Hug gestures in inside language also contribute to linguistic diversity. The role of language has a significant impact on various aspects, especially in social life and human interaction. Next, types of place articulation. The first, communicative function. The first type is regulative function. Regulative function is influence behaviors through commands, requests, or persuasion. Contohnya, tolong tutup pintunya, atau silakan duduk. Nah, ini merupakan contoh dari regulative function, permintaan, dan perintah. The second type is interactional function. Interactional function is facilitating social relationship through expression of love, intonation, and relational needs. Contohnya, aku sayang padamu, atau apa kabar. Ini contoh dari expression of love and relational needs. The third type is personal function. Personal function is conveying identity, emotion, preferences, and personal opinions. Contohnya, aku suka warna biru, atau aku merasa bahagia hari ini. Nah, ini merupakan contoh preference dan emotion. For heuristic function. Heuristic function is aiding in learning and exploring the environment. Contohnya, bagaimana cara kerjanya, atau beritahu saya lebih lanjut. And the last one is imaginative function. Imaginative function is used for creative purpose such as joking, of carving stories, to explore and creating imaginative ideas. Contohnya, ada seekor kucing yang bisa berbicara, atau ceritakanlah kisahmu yang paling menarik. Next, language from spoken and written. Spoken language involves speaking and listening skills, whereas written language involves reading and writing skills. The main difference between spoken and writing language is the written language is more formal and complex than spoken language. Berikut lebih jelas perbedaan antara spoken language and written language pada tabel di bawah ini. Yang pertama, spoken language involves speaking and listening skill, while written language involves reading and writing skills. Yang kedua, spoken language is older than written language, while written language is not as old as spoken language. Yang ketiga, spoken language is more informal and simple than written language, while written language is more formal and complex than spoken language. Yang keempat, spoken language is mostly used between two people who are in the same place, while written language encourages communication across time and space. Yang kelima, spoken language can use speech, tone, value, etc., while written language can use titles, punctuation, layered, etc. Yang keenam, spoken language is temporary because there are no notes, while written language is permanent because there are notes. Yang terakhir, spoken language contains repetition in complex sentence, iteration, correction, etc., while written language is often grammatical correct and may contain long sentence in complex word forms. Next, speech acts. The first definition of speech acts. The speech acts is an utterance that serves a function in communication. We perform a speech act whenever an apology, readings, request, complaint, invitation, compliment, or refusal. The type of speech acts. According to Sally and Austin, there are three types of speech acts in conversation: locutionary, illocutionary, and perlocutionary acts. The first type is locutionary acts, which is simple the act of producing meaningful linguistic expression using their organs of speech. In simpler terms, it's when speakers using their voice to say some things with a specific structure and meaning. Contohnya, I promise to give you some money. Ini melibatkan tindakan locutionary dalam menghasilkan ujaran tersebut. And the second type is illocutionary acts are action performed by speakers when saying something with a specific intonation in a suitable context rather than achieving a particular effect through their words. Contohnya, ayo berkumpul di kafe nanti. Itu tidak hanya menyampaikan informasi, itu juga mengikat pembicara untuk memenuhi janji tersebut di masa depan. Jadi, sederhananya, tindakan illocutionary dalam kasus ini adalah tindakan berjanji. Electionary X classification by both Austin and Shelley have different types based on their function. The first, declaration. This electionary act has the power to change a situation or status to the utterance word. For example, saya nyatakan Anda sebagai suami dan istri. Ini mengubah status kedua individu yang terlibat. And the second, representative or assertive. This type states what the speaker believes to be true, accommodating to the truth of the statement. For example, matahari terbit di timur. Nah, ini menegaskan fakta yang diketahui atau fakta yang nyata. And the third is expensive. Expensive illusionary acts conveying the speaker's feelings or psychological state. For example, saya turut prihatin mendengarnya. Nah, ini mengungkapkan empati dan bertujuan untuk merendahkan ketegangan pendengar. 4. Directive. This act is used by the speaker to promote someone else to do something, creating an obligation. For example, jangan berisik. Ini merupakan arahan yang mendesak agar pendengarnya diam. And the last one is commissive. Commissive illusionary acts involve the speakers accommodating to what they say, representing a promise or a future action. For example, saya berjanji akan memberi Anda sejumlah uang. Nah, ini membuat pembicara berkomitmen untuk memenuhi janjinya di masa depan. Next, perlusionary act is a speech act that relies on a special effect producing by the listener, with the aim of influencing them according to wishes of the speaker. Contohnya, saya sarankan Anda membaca buku ini. Tindakan perlusionary act terjadi ketika efek khusus seperti ketertarikan atau keinginan untuk mencoba dihasilkan oleh pendengar berdasarkan ujaran pembicara. Speech acts are classification into two main types, direct speech acts and indirect speech acts. Julie 1996-54. The first, direct speech act. In direct speech acts, there is a direct relationship between its grammatical structure and its cognitive function. For instance, an affirmative sentence is used to give a statement, an interrogative sentence to ask a question, and an affirmative sentence to give an order or comment. Contohnya, A. Berapa anak yang kamu miliki? B. 4. Pada ucapan A di atas, bentuk dan fungsi tersebut sama. A sebagai pembicara menghasilkan pertanyaan kepada B secara sintaktis. Pertanyaan menggunakan bentuk interrogatif dengan kata tanya berapa serta tanda tanya di akhir. Fungsi dari ucapan tersebut adalah bertanya atau meminta informasi. Dilihat dari jawaban B. Dengan kata lain, pembicara mengharapkan jawaban dari pendengar. The second, indirect speech acts. In contrast to direct speech acts, indirect speech acts lack a direct connection between grammatical structure and cognitive function. For example, an interrogative sentence is slowly for asking question, but can also conveying a request or warning. Contohnya, Ibu, di mana sapu? Anak, tunggu sebentar Ma. Secara sintaktis, pertanyaan ibu mencari informasi, namun jawaban anak perempuan mengungkapkan bahwa pertanyaan tersebut berfungsi sebagai permintaan agar dia membawa sapu. Permintaan tidak langsung ibu secara konvensional diungkapkan sebagai imperatif, seperti bawa sapu itu ya. Dengan demikian, ucapan ibu dikategorikan sebagai tindakan tutur tidak langsung atau indirect speech acts. So, it can be concluded the discourse analysis is interest in how the context of communication event influences the meaning of the language used. Thank you for your attention. Hopefully what I conveying in this video can be useful for all of us. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.